Hello, John. How we doing? Week
Well, I'm busy.
week 4 in the books. This is the Strictly Business podcast. Crazy. 1 month in the season. Is that nuts? How fast time flies?
I mean, it just accentuates how much longer that off season feels because, god damn, it feels like forever. Now we're in our season and we're almost a third of the way done.
Boom. Before you know it, it's going to be trick or treat time. Then it's Thanksgiving and the other holidays that follow. And our
Then it's
season,
playoffs.
yeah, we're
Playoffs.
Yeah, playoffs is right. We are knee deep in the thick of the weeds, no pun intended, with the Strictly Business season. And looking back at week 4, man, I mentioned to you prior, but this league and fantasy in general just never ceases to amaze me.
Yeah. How about our standings right now? We go into the week with clear great teams, clear offer teams. None of our undefeateds remained undefeated. None of our winless teams stayed winless. We had the absolute suck out bowl of all suck out bowls.
Mhm.
Like what an insane week.
Crazy week. I mean, a 242 and change got dropped. I mean, add that to the mix. This was one of the
A 242 got dropped and a 95 won a week.
Yeah. Yep. Again, as I mentioned, never ceases to amaze me. It's why you love fantasy football. Every week things can change, whether it's one of your best players not living up to their potential, or Cordarrelle Patterson going off for 3 touchdowns in a career game. And it's amazing. You just never know. You never know what you see on paper never really comes to fruition all the time. And that's why you got to stay on the trades. I mentioned to you, I said, after my team flopped this week, even though it was the first flop of the year, I'm 3-1. I said, I need some new faces. I need a facelift to the roster. I need to do something. And prior to this podcast being recorded, I pulled the trigger on something which we'll talk about a little later when we discuss transactions. But it's always good to get some fresh faces regardless of your record. Again, 3-0. RJ was 3-0. Everyone wanted to put us in the championship game, and I kept saying, guys, it's such a long season. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's great to be off to a good start, but really 3 weeks does not give you a belt.
No, sir.
So let's do this. Let's jump right into week 4, because like we said, it was just such a strange week. And we're going to go to this shit bowl, as you described, where Mr. Toes.
I have a couple of props.
Oh, you do? Oh, okay.
This is my flashcard. Flashcard
1.
Yeah. That's how many wins Phil had coming into the game.
Oh,
okay. We're probably going to revisit that one.
Oh, we are? Well, okay. Now this was the closest matchup of the week. Both scoring under 100 points, which
brings me to my second prop.
Oh, okay. 100.
100. Yeah. It would have taken a mere 100 points to beat Nikki this week.
Ooh.
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
So let me ask.
Sorry to interrupt.
Let me ask you this: when your team flops that bad and you score under 100 points, that sucks. That really is, a shiv to the heart. However, when you lose by less than 2 points and scored 93.72 and then lose by less than 2 points, all you needed was 20 more yards or a catch for 15. Like,
does it help that this is what you're getting out of your number 1 running back?
So do you have any flashcards to represent the total points after week 4? Because this bet that you had was Zach Moss versus Miles and Miles. Either Miles was clearly in favor of you. Oh, 12.1 to 6.2 and 0.3. Miles and Miles are falling behind. Miles Gaskin is just falling back on their depth chart. I think he had 3 touches.
Yeah,
So,
it was a rough game. I certainly wasn't expecting that kind of low production out of it.
no, definitely not. Not against Indy, but they fell behind in that game, and it became a shit show. I mean, Phil's backfield has now become a clusterfuck. Really, when you look at it, you got Melvin Gordon, Josh Jacobs, Miles and Miles. I mean, it's rough. I would say, honestly, the guy that's got the most potential is probably Kenneth Gainwell. I like him. He looks good. And as the season goes on, I think Sanders is going to sit and lose more touches to Gainwell.
Well, we'll talk about the transactions. I mean, and you look ahead at Phil's next week. He's clearly not depending on any Miles, which may be may be a good thing for him.
I think he's watching and listening to our podcast, perhaps.
Yes.
So Mr. Toes drops a 95.63 and gets a win in strictly business. Again, these were the 2 lowest scoring teams, and ironically faced each other this week. Like week 4 may go down in history as one of the strangest weeks in our league.
Yeah, I agree. Just all kinds of Twilight Zone crap happening, and yeah. Minus 10 from his defense. Nothing out of Logan Thomas, who left hurt. 1.6 and 7.1 out of Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. That win he was hoping to squeak out against you, he just squeaked out a week later against Phil.
Yeah. You got to be counting your blessings when you win in this league, scoring 95 points or under 100% in general. I mean, after Herbert and my boy CEH, ever since I blew him up on this podcast, he's done nothing but prove me wrong. So my apologies, CEH. Come back to earth this week, please. But 27.28 out of Herbert, 23.4 out of CEH. His next high score, kicker. Phil, his kicker outscored almost Phil's entire team. Amari Cooper edged him out barely in Aaron Rodgers. Phil, go back to the drawing board, buddy. I mean, you have a good team, but you're now 1-3. Nicky climbs his way to 2-2. You have anything else?
We started the week with Phil with 1 win. And how many does he end with?
1 win. Yep. That loss column increased. I tell you.
I bet, Phil, you're feeling real good about that draft recap that said you were going to be 14-0 now, huh?
Well, we all know, yes, the draft is a huge foundation for what you need, but you also got to make moves. You got to make timely pickups and timely trades. Trades have certainly benefited my team this year, and I've been very fortunate in getting the right guys at the right time. Yeah, and selling high on a couple guys. You got to be willing to let go of guys you consider studs. That's just it. I mean, you and I talk every week, and you've been very close to pulling the trigger on a couple deals. Talking about your team, let's move on to No Money Mahomes versus AJ Green's Twitter timeline. Rich and I talked at length on Saturday, and we talked about a lot of things. But when we talked about fantasy, he said, look, just remind John that I'm going to ruin his fantasy season. That's what he said to me. And I don't think he necessarily ruined your fantasy season beating you this week, 162.42, 144.22. I mean, your team had a solid week.
Solid, but didn't reach 150. We know that's at least the benchmark of where we got to be to win.
Right.
So, and when I look down at my team, I had solid production at quarterback, solid production at running back. I just didn't have a wide receiver hit, and my team's definitely built to have wide receivers hit. So It's going to happen week to week, still put up 140. Rich had a fantastic week, man. David Montgomery put in his work before he got knocked out. Stephon Diggs finally had a solid day.
Yeah. Kareem Hunt chipping in. I mean, ever since he did that deal with RJ, I was like, man, Kareem Hunt, really? But he's been solid for him. And you know, and talking to Rich, he said this, and I say this to the league. He said, don't let me get Jarvis Landry and don't let me get Michael Thomas back. My team's going to be scary. Now, that was a lot for an 0-3 team to be spitting. But you look at his roster, the problem is, as you mentioned, David Montgomery got hurt, and they're saying he's going to be out roughly 4 weeks, could be longer. That's a huge blow.
Well, the problem with that 4-week timeline is once they play week 5 in that timeline, they have a bye. So it seems more realistic that they would probably let him rest through the bye.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Especially with a sprain. They thought they're scared that it was a tear. Thankfully, it isn't, you know, and for Rich's sake. But you look at, I mean, I guess saving grace is he has Damian Williams there as well.
Yeah.
So he can plug and play there. But he opened my eyes. He said, yeah, Michael Thomas, Juice Landry come back. I mean, he's got a host of receivers here with Thielen and Diggs, Sanders, but his backfield. I mean, again, it's going to all rest on what the Bills do. We know this until Rich breaks that up, if he does. You had a huge day out of Zeke. Do you have anything you want to say to the league about Zeke's performance?
Oh, they got eyes. They saw what happened. They know what's going on.
He's now.
You want to shovel shit at me? McKeever wants to know what my math is on that pick at 8. Get the fuck out of here. 147-2 against the number 1 defense against the run. The number 1 defense against the run. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we saw what happened when the Panthers weren't playing a pretender. You know, we saw what happens when Zeke isn't playing against the pass funnel Tampa Bay defense. Like,
his only bad game this year is against Tampa Bay. And if you follow the trends, everyone does. And
it gets magnified because it's week 1. You know, we've been so thirsty for things for so long that when we see week 1, it's absolute and it's like that's final. And well, that's the biggest overreaction of the season after you see week 1. I mean, there's certain teams that don't perform that you think are going to have a strong offense. You know, a team like Dallas comes out and throws the ball, 59 times in that game. So it was the script of the game. It was who they were playing. As I mentioned, nobody can run the ball in Tampa Bay. I think New England this week had a total of 4 or 5 rushing attempts the entire game. So even Belichick realizes that you can't run the ball on them. Certainly they have a weakness in their secondary on the outside, and that's why they went and got Sherman this last week. But nonetheless, you can't do much on the ground. Anybody that's playing Tampa, I would caution to reduce your expectations if you have a running back or even a running quarterback for that matter. But kudos to you, man. I mean, Zeke definitely stepped up. You know, hopefully he comes back down to earth this week for 2 reasons. 1, Cowboys are playing the Giants, which has now become a huge game. And 2, you're playing me. So we'll get into previews, but drop that little nugget. I'm hoping that the Dallas offense in general comes back to earth. But let's talk about the Giants real quick. So the Giants go into New Orleans. Very low expectations on what we were going to do. The New Orleans defense has been pretty solid all year. And we were down in that game. And I said, here we go again. To quote Phil, how are we going to find a way to lose this one? And, they proved me wrong. I don't want to get too excited, but, there's 2 losses this year that were last-second field goals. We were in those games. Certainly the game at home against Atlanta was a game that we should have won. The game on the road against Washington on that Thursday night, that was another game that we should have won. But needless to say, we didn't. We're 1-3. But the fact that we went into New Orleans and that was their first home game in the Dome in like 2 years, pre-pandemic, where they had fans in the stadium, that place was loud. And I tip my cap. The defense made plays when we had to. Certainly forced Jameis into some Jameis-type throws.
And the offense did what they had to. Saquon, I mean, every week he looks a little bit more like Saquon. He made some cuts this week that made me think that he's not considering his knee. He's just out there balling. Caught that touchdown down the sideline, made a nice move. And then I want to highlight one other guy two guys really, but Kenny Galladay, feed that guy, please. That's why we paid him the big money. He's a legit stud, top line wide receiver. Feed him, please. 2, Kadarius Toney, our number 1 pick. We got to see a little bit of that water bug. I mean, this kid's got moves, and he's a player. Get the ball in his hands. Huge matchup against Dallas this week. Dallas has blown out the last 2 teams they've played, Philly and then Carolina. Those games weren't even close. I won money on both games, but I won't be betting on Dallas this week. I don't know. It's going to be an uphill battle for sure. It's a game, again, that no one believes the Giants can win, except for Giants fans. There's a little bit more hope. I mean, this is what the Giants do, John.
Half.
A little more. But this is what they do. They reel you in. They catch you, and then it's a release. It's a catch and release fan club where they reel you in. We got it. Oh, we're all excited. We caught a fish. Oh, but we got to now release you back to the wild.
The fact that we're back to Danny Dimes as an NFL quarterback is making me laugh.
He had some good throws. He had some Danny Dimes not so good throws either. He's still not a Super Bowl winning quarterback, in my opinion. Is he serviceable? Yeah. But we'll see. There's, again, a long way to go. This is just one game. Let's not get too hyped. But the fact that we closed them out, tied the game late, went to overtime, took the ball and drove it down their throat to end the game. And I'm glad that we put the pedal to the metal and didn't just settle for a fucking field goal like we did when we were in Washington. You know, we went and we won the game with our offense versus allowing the other team a chance. So that's my little segue into what's going on in New York. Congrats to the Giants. But again, another huge game coming up this week. So anyways, Rich was one of those 0-3 teams, becomes 1-3. John, you've lost 2 in a row, man. So what's going on? How do you feel? I mean, you scored 145, 144.
Long season, nothing to worry about. The first 2 wins really eased that. I not worried about anything for any amount of time right now. It's a tough matchup this week, no doubt. I feel really good that you traded away a couple of your Thursday night guys because I wasn't looking forward to, the Thursday night onslaught thanks to the absolute ass raping I got from Norm a few years ago on a Thursday night setup like this. So, yeah. I want to say it was eerily similar where he had Kelsey, Hill, and Alex Smith, and then he had the running back from the other team and put up like 120 points with 4 guys on a Thursday night. I still have fucking nightmares about that.
Yeah. Well, hopefully I can return you to your nightmares tonight, even after moving a couple of these guys in the game tonight. But there's still some horses in the stall for sure. So, King of the Castle, 172.96 to the Bronx 103.04. What's going on with Dave? Dave's team is just floundering right now. He had just missed out on his second victory a couple weeks ago, and now he's lost 2 in a row, falls to 1-3. He's in a tough spot right now, looking at his squad.
I mean, I think Dave's trying to play a running back game in the wide receiver world.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, Chase Claypool was out. I mean, he's still hanging on for hope with Elijah Moore. I mean, dude, I offered him Ruggs for Elijah Moore straight up in week 2. Yeah. Thank you for not doing that deal, Dave. Jeff's got a good team. I mean, after this week, dropping to 172.96, he moves up to 3-1, tied with me in the division, but ranked number 2 overall in the league based on record and points.
The big news, I mean, he puts up that 172. Tom Brady, 11 points. Marvin Jones, 4 points. Godwin, 7 points. He had some studs doing it for him. DJ Moore. Saquon, Austin Eckler. Like, this dude's roster is thick with 2 C's, man.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's got T. Higgins on the bench, who was inactive. That's another big name. Devontae Parker, and then Darnell Mooney. So he's and then he's got 3 good defenses that he can, plug and play. He had only 2 points out of his kicker. As you mentioned, he had a low week out of Godwin and Tom Brady. I mean, you're not going to get 33 and 32 out of Moore and Eckler, but you could.
Right. They have that ceiling. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think Jeff's team's no longer a sleeping giant. I think I had mentioned it previous podcast that I thought Jeff had a really good team. I was fortunate to get that win on him week 1. That's his only loss right now. That's his only blemish. And he's blowing people out. And again, Dave's on the struggle bus right now.
Yes.
Looking at his roster, looking at what he has to move. I mean, when you're rolling out Sutton, Pittman, and Waddle as your starting wide receivers, bro, you're in trouble. And all you got is Quez Watkins, Elijah Moore, and Claypool on the bench. Like, bro, you're playing with a bunch of threes. We warned him about it at the draft. You're playing with a bunch of threes, and it's not going to get it done. I mean, Dalvin Cook had 5 points. Chubb had a decent week at 16, but 1 in 3. I think he's ranked 10th in the league now. And, big win for Jeff. Again, king of the castle, climbing to the top of the standings. 3-1. All right, here's another match. This one I thought was going to be lopsided for sure, but it ended up being lopsided the other way. Norm's team came out swinging, dropped 174.48 to Ice Cream Man's 119.52. Now, Norm had such a big week that wasn't it McKeever last week that was complaining about the schedule being all jazzed up, and then I reverted it back, right?
Yeah, he said he was ready for his layup against Norm.
Exactly. Well, Jeff, I'm sure you're pretty good at math, but 174.48 beats 172.96. Just how about them apples? All right. So you're welcome. The commissioner did you a favor months ago, hammered in a hotel room at the Mandalay Bay. I mean, that's how this league works. The commissioner gets all jazzed up, throws down a few whiskeys, and writes out our schedule for the year. Well, congrats to Norm. There's another 0-3 team that's no longer with winless. He's now 1-3. And again, this was a surprising outcome, especially when Patty goes for 40.72. Tyler Boyd started the week on Thursday night with 21.3, and I was like, this is a wrap. I'm like, RJ's got this one in the books. But other than Jefferson, as I mentioned, Pat Mahomes, no one else really did shit. Calvin Ridley continues his down year. Like, what's going on in Atlanta? I mean, do you have any hope of Calvin Ridley turning things around? What?
I mean, I don't think he's going to be as bad. I mean, I don't even know if you noticed this, but like, we got an alert since we've been on that Calvin Ridley's out this week, upcoming. But I can't imagine him staying as bad as he is now, but I don't think he's going to be as good as we hoped coming into the season.
Well, Atlanta plays in the London game this week, and if he was a little tweaked, which they mentioned he was a non-participant in their first 2 practices, they travel to London tonight. That might not be a bad game to sit him and get him healthy, 100%. If this game was in Atlanta, maybe he plays. I think the travel had something to do with it. I don't know. I'm assuming, but personally, I have no interest in Calvin Ridley on my team at all. Not for what his value is today. I just don't see it. I don't see it in that offense. I want nothing to do with Atlanta other than Kyle Pitts. That's me. And Kyle Pitts hasn't done shit this year. And Ricky's still trading him as if his name was Travis Kelce. It's like, bro.
Really? He's not even playing him.
Well, my point is I've been trying to get Pitts off of Ricky's team for a few weeks. And Ricky's just so overvaluing Pitts at this point. Like his value, bro, he's a penny stock, you know, and you're trading him as like a Tesla or something. Like, bro, let's get in the game. Let's see where our guys are. I mean, no.
Hey, Ricky, I'll pay fiat prices.
There you go. There you go. I don't need him. I'm gonna rock with my boy Schultz. Fuck it. So, anyways, Jalen Hurts went off. Fournette had a good game. Taylor finally got 100 and a touch. A-Rob's the one guy on his team. Will Fuller got hurt, but other than that, that's really it. I mean, he got 16 out of his kicker. Like I said, Kenny Galladay had over 100. Good game. Marquise Brown had a touchdown. Knox had what, 2 touchdowns in that game? Or
Yep,
one?
I believe so. I'm looking right now.
Yeah, 2 touchdowns. Knox has 4 touchdowns in the last 3 weeks. That's all you want out of your tight end if your tight end's not Waller, Kittle, or Kelsey.
Well, and that was a bailout plan for him. You know, he was rolling Gronk until Gronk was out. He made the trade to pick up Knox. Like McKeever upgraded a defense and gave him Knox.
Yep.
So it was literally a bailout plan that
you know, and you got to give Norm credit. I mean, his team roster week 3 to week 4 was completely different. He's got Hurts in there now. I mean, of course, this is Norm we're talking about, but Norm was 0-3. He was taking shots, and still at 1-3, he's still taking shots. Congrats, Norm. You get your first win in a big way, and RJ takes his first loss. Again, this one was a head scratcher to me. If I was a betting man looking at the paper, who was on paper, I would have bet RJ big, but that's not how fantasy works. Moving on, Rick Talk moves up to 2-2 with 153.3 against KZ, 127.57. Another 3-0 team takes their first loss. Ricky's now back in the mix. He was 0-2. He's won 2 in a row now. Just steady performance across the board. You drop a big 47 with Tyreek. Christian Kirk came back to earth, but the big boys on his roster played big. Carl, you know, a feeble 127, but I think we saw this coming. I mean, my boy Debo, he went off again. I love that dude. But
I gotta pee first.
I think I'm gonna get a Debo Samuel jersey. Even though he's not on my team, I just love how he plays. That dude's a beast. Right. Anything you want to say about this? Again, Ricky surprising us, coming up to 2-2.
His big boys played like big boys. All of his running backs did solid. Yeah, Swift was a little quiet, but
right. And then
looking back at it, that Tyreek performance really saved his ass.
Yeah, because if he has a normal week, this could be 130 to 127. This could be a lot closer.
Right.
You know, and then when I say normal, I say 20 plus.
20, 25, sure. Yeah.
But a monster week like that, you're right. That was the deciding factor. Now, Carl's still got Christian McCaffrey, who I heard is practicing this week in a limited role. They said that he's going to be a game time decision for Sunday. And he still has A.J. Brown on the bench. But he's going to need those guys because 127 is not going to get it done.
Nope.
So tighten up the standings, and then leads me to my game, which is the last game for week 4. And the reason why I left it last is not so much how my team performed. 129.66. That's not going to win you many weeks. But yeah, tip my cap to Ryan. What hell of a week, man. Like, I know you're kind of quiet on the message board. You're kind of quiet in group text from time to time, but your team came out swinging, bro. And 242 is probably going to be the high score for the year. When you look at how his team performed at every level, it's going to take, some team to just.
Let's be and look, CeeDee Lamb, 2.5 points.
Right.
Tyler Conklin, not a big game, not a huge game out of his kicker. So it was everybody else.
Well, when you get 49 out of your defense, you should feel good about winning that week. Dropping to 242 is just insane. 24 out of Corey Davis, 36 out of Patterson with 3 touchdowns. McLaurin went off in that crazy Atlanta-Washington game. He had the two guys you wanted in that, and McLaurin and Patterson. Edmonds rushed for over 120. Mixon didn't do a lot on Thursday night, and then
Right.
Dak threw for what, 4 touchdowns in this game?
4 touchdowns, like 150 passing yards.
188 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, got him 35 points. I mean, dude, that's the type of shit that goes down where you have a 242. So Ryan's team, who we almost wrote off after 3 weeks, he was 1-2. His team was just flailing in the wind. He bounced back.
Okay.
You bounce back up to 2-2. Naturally, my team cooking with Russ, we fall to 3-1 in a big way. But there's weeks where you're just like, there's nothing you can do. And you just, again, tip your cap to the other team. A 242 is just insanity. I mentioned to you on a previous call, what salvaged my day is that the Giants won in the early game. So I was able to just drink my IPAs and not look at fantasy the rest of the day and just enjoy the day. Just enjoy watching football with a group of friends and say, you know what, regardless, I'm walking out of here with our first win of the year. Fortunately, I was in a position where fantasy, okay, you take a walloping like that. And again, my team underperformed. I'd rather have my team underperform and get my ass beat than have what happened to Phil, where you lose by less than 2 points and your team sucks. So that's where I'm at. Week 4, what a crazy week. As a long-winded recap, as it should have been. You want to talk about some transactions now? I mean, there's been a few trades this week.
Yeah. Why don't you go ahead and start talking about the one you just finished with Norm?
All right, right on. So Norm and I, most of you know, some of you don't. I've been traveling all week. I've been up and down all over California visiting hemp farms. Long story short, while I was there, Norm has just been attacking my team, trying to get a trade done. And then I posted that on the block with Lockett, Evans, and Najee to really see what's out there and what people are willing to pay. Norm and I really lined up, in my opinion, and we were pretty close on a couple deals. And I did have Najee in a couple deals, John. Najee was in those deals. But we were able to get something done earlier this morning. We're recording this on Thursday. Where I sent him, I did break up my triple stack. Some people may think that was a bad move. For me, part of my rationale is I didn't want to have all these guys going on Thursday night. I'm not going to lie. Like, that was part of my incentive. The other part of my incentive was you bring some fresh faces to the team. After you score under 130, you need to, bolster the roster. So I sent him Tyler Lockett, Darrell Henderson, KJ Osborne, and Michael Carter, who I do like Michael Carter. Just he plays for the Jets. And I got Amari Cooper, Taylor and Hines, and LaVisca. I thought it was a good deal for my team. Brought some new faces. Certainly plugged Cooper and Taylor right into the lineup. Chenault adds depth. Hines is the handcuff. I mean, I like Darrell Henderson. I think the league is down on Darrell Henderson. I know his ceiling is much lower than Taylor's, but I think his floor is pretty consistent as well, given the Rams offense. And if you look at the Rams schedule over the next few weeks, it's like 6 straight games. They're just ridiculous. And if he had 15 points in the game he didn't play, which would have been tough because they were playing Tampa Bay, but nonetheless, he'd be the number 9 ranked running back in the game he sat out. They're playing Seattle tonight. Then they play the Giants, Detroit, Houston, Tennessee, and San Francisco before their week 11 bye week. All of those teams, Tennessee's ranked 12th right now against the run, but they're not that solid against the run. All those other teams are in the 20s. Those are juicy matchups for this Rams offense.
Do me a favor. Tell me again that you like Darrell Henderson and you think he's got a good schedule.
I like Darrell Henderson. I think he's got a good schedule. I just read you the schedule. Numbers don't lie, bro. Do I like the deal? Yeah, of course. That's why I pulled the trigger on it. But I gave up Tyler Lockett. I love Tyler Lockett. There's a triple stack going, but I'll get my boy Mari back. I've never had Jonathan Taylor. I'm stoked to have him. Welcome to the team, buddy. Welcome to the team, buddy. So as you were saying before, those 5 guys that I had going tonight, now I only have 3. I got Russ to DK, and then I got Matt Gay kicking for the Rams. So let's see. I'm scrolling back through here. There's a couple pickups. Jeff went out on a limb and picked up his boy Fields for 17 fab bucks.
Yep.
You like that?
Yeah, hey, you got to get your guy. And, you know, if Jeff's team maybe has a weakness that can't be seen right now, maybe it's Tom Brady finally slows down the second half of the year when Fields is finally starting to feel comfortable, and then he's got a fucking Konami back there.
Yeah.
You know?
True. Ricky spending 39 bucks on Chris Evans with Joe Mixon being week to week, which we all know could be until week 16.
May I present my last prop for the week?
Sure. 57. What does that mean?
Isn't that what Flipper spent on Daniel Jones?
Yes, it is. I knew where you're going with it. 57 bucks. It's a little bit of heart involved. And we mentioned how we needed to change some things up. Is there a chance that he starts Danny Dimes over Aaron Rodgers?
No way. No.
Just throwing it out there. Why else would you pick up Danny Dimes for 57 fab bucks?
I know. And I mean, he ridiculed me pretty bad last week for how I spent my fab.
Mm-hmm.
And then dropped, you know, a third of his fab on Danny Dimes when he's got Aaron Rodgers.
He's driving the struggle bus right now. I think he needs to make some more TikTok acoustic guitar videos and sing to the fantasy gods. Don't sing to me about trading him DK.
Flip. Next time you go get a mask and you want it to be scary, Flipper, what I need you to do is, instead of having a beast with his eyes sewn shut, have them shown wide open so you can see what's going on, brother.
And pull the trigger on a Kittle deal, man. I was giving you good value, bro. And again, these guys are just, I do it too. I overvalue the guys on my roster. I get it.
Everybody does.
Fall in love. But like, have we seen that San Francisco offense? Debo's the guy to have. Ayuk's going to have a week. Kittle's going to have a week. But Debo's the guy. Debo's the guy. You got Damian Harris and Allen Robinson swap. Norman, Nicky. I don't really read too much into that. You're the Pats fan. Pats offense is kind of vanilla.
I mean, the only guy I really like is my boy Jacoby with the work out of the backfield now that James White's gone.
Yeah. You know, and then speaking of Phil, he did do a deal. Okay. Where he traded Amari Cooper, Evan Ingram, one of the Miles Sanders, and the Falcons D. He got back T.Y. Hilton, Leonard Fournette, Kenny Galladay, and Dawson Knox. I think it was a pretty good deal for Phil. He needed the running back. He got Kenny Galladay, who I like, but, Norm sold high on. He gave up the best player in the deal, Amari Cooper, but Norm don't have him no more. So that's his part.
I feel like Phil got a finger in the butthole to get that deal done.
Maybe. It's a juicy deal for him. Norm likes helping other teams. As we mentioned, he's a feeder team. Anyhow. Anyways, good deals, Norm. Norm, I think definitely improved his team overall. Believe it or not. That's my opinion. I like where Norm's team's at.
Yeah, this week, next week you'll hate it. The week after that, you'll kind of like it. The week after that, it'll all be trash. It's a week to week with Norms.
True. All right, week 5, man. We're in week 5. This is crazy. There's some huge matchups. There's 2 that I'm going to save till the end. So I'm just going to skip ahead to King of the Castle versus God Hates Me after week 6. And this is a big game because, again, Ryan is riding high off the 242. Jeff's team's trucking along. It's just been pretty consistent and pretty solid all year. Standard, McKeever type team. 3-1, fighting for the division lead in the blue bubble division. Ryan's clawing his way back up. Projections say this one's going to be a close one. You got Brady against Miami, Eckler against Cleveland. It's a tough matchup. Again, that huge Giants-Cowboys game. DJ Moore going up against a solid secondary in Philadelphia. You got, Devonta Smith going up against Carolina's secondary. This is going to be a tough one. I mean, Jeff definitely has a really good team, and it seems like he's got decent matchups. Can Cordarrelle Patterson and Chase Edmonds do it again? That's the question. Thoughts?
I mean, Cordarrelle, man, what the heck? He can't keep up this pace, right? What did he have? He had 6 snaps and 3 touchdowns last week. I know it was 25 snaps, but I mean, he's on the field for a third of their offensive plays, and he's getting all of the offense funneled through him.
If there wasn't a guy named Derrick Henry, he'd be the number 1 ranked running back by 7 points. Isn't that crazy?
That's literally the grossest thing you've ever said to me. And it really doesn't that highlight why wide receivers are more valuable than running backs, given traditional knowledge has always been that running backs are worth more. But at this point, isn't that really turning?
Yeah, it is. But he's that hybrid, Patterson. We all knew how dangerous this guy is with the ball in his hands. I just think for the first time, maybe there's a team that's actually getting him the ball in space and feeding him. I mean, last week he had six rushing attempts and I think 7 targets. So, and 6 catches.
We should have seen this coming, Biz. It's the typical 8th year breakout.
Yeah, right? Out of nowhere. I mean, it's insanity. It really is. But again, he's that special player, like a Tyreek Hill. That you got to get that guy touches. You got to see what he can do with the ball in his hand because he's just so explosive. And Patterson's so big and strong. He can run around you, run by you, or run through you. I mean, I've always liked watching him play. He's an exciting player, but he just never got the looks or the touches. And again,
right.
Finally a team. And now with the news that Ridley's out, they're going against the Jets defense that gives up yards and points. Patterson could be in for another big week. He really could. I got a whole new feel on Ryan's team just because of the 242. Jesus, this one could be a toss-up.
It's got potential.
I'd say it's a toss-up. This is bigger for Ryan. I mean, it's big for both. Obviously, I'm rooting for Ryan. Sorry, Jeff, but you're in my division. I'd love to see you fall to 3-2 and Ryan go to 3-2. But again, this one's going to be tough. Moving on, we got the Bronx who 1-3, KZ's 3-1. They're both coming off losses. Obviously, this game is huge for Dave. You don't want to fall to 1-4, not losing 3 in a row. This is a battle royale. Saving grace is that he's got Lamar going on Monday night. That's always huge when you have a stud quarterback going Monday night. Right. But the rest of his lineup, man, I mean, Waller does this where he goes to sleep for a few weeks and he puts up 30. I think this could be the week against Chicago. Chicago's got a solid defense, but I think this could be the week. They're at home. Vegas is going to be jumping all weekend because you got the heavyweight title fight Saturday night, and then you got the football game on Sunday. The city's popping every weekend, but when there's a heavyweight title fight or a big UFC and then the Raiders play at home, yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember what fight I was in Vegas for, but I was passing through and there was a huge heavyweight boxing fight and the buzz in the city was crazy that night.
Yeah, even if you don't have tickets to go, everyone's watching the fight, everyone's getting down. Mm-hmm. I did consider going to Vegas this weekend, I'm not going to lie, but I won't be. I'm going to be focused on my team, moving up to 4-1. Again, this one on paper looks like it's going to be close. Carl's got McCaffrey in the lineup as of this recording. I think that's high hopes that McCaffrey plays. Last word I heard is that he did practice, said that he looked real good, and he's a game time decision. So we'll see. But if he gets McCaffrey back, he's got Kamara, McCaffrey, Debo, Kirk Cousins, who had a down week last week, but has been playing well all year, Odell, Chase. Carl's got a solid team as well. No wonder he's 3-1. But he's really waiting on McCaffrey to come back. And then he's still, let's see. Oh, yeah, that'll be it. I don't know. Toss up. I give the edge to Carl. I hate to say it. Sorry, Dave. Do a deal, Dave. Do a deal. A deal that shakes things up for your team. Trade a Dalvin Cook. Trade a Nick Chubb. Trade a Waller.
And make sure you put them on the block so you get deal offers from everybody and everybody knows you're making the deal. Don't just get a backdoor sneaky Norm puts his hand in your pocket and jiggles your balls a little bit and it feels good,
Yeah.
Make sure everybody knows.
Right. And change it up. Go get you a number 1 wide receiver. You have the players to do it. Go do it. All right. Rick Talk, 2-2. This is a family affair. Brother versus brother. Little Nicky Normie Puss. 1-3. Again, another one that's projected. All these games are projected within 1 point. Now, we all know projections only shit. But, you look at the rosters. Ricky's won 2 in a row. Phil's dropped 2. This is a huge matchup. Again, you don't want to fall to 1-4. Certainly, Ricky's trying to climb up in the rankings. He's ranked 7th in the league right now. We mentioned he had a really good week last week that surrounded Tyreek Hill's 47. Tyreek, it's going to be a tough battle against Buffalo. Buffalo's D's legit. Gibson's against New Orleans. I think New Orleans D is going to bounce back this week. And Stafford plays tonight against Seattle, which I'm hoping is a shootout. But, Rodgers at Cincinnati for Phil. Brandon Cooks, again, Galladay in that huge Dallas game. George Kittle. What's up with George Kittle, man? What's your opinion on what's going on there?
I mean, I hate offering any kind of opinion about San Francisco at all because just Shanahan's a douche that pulls Shanahanigans all the time.
Yeah. I mean, his high points on the year, week 3, 13.6. Now, in the last 2 weeks, he had 9 targets and 10 targets, but it sounds like Trey Lance is going to get his first start this week. That might actually benefit Kittle, in my opinion.
Maybe. What did he do what did he do in the second half last week?
Not much.
10 targets. We don't know what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and he played 92% of the snaps. But again, understanding that he's a little dinged up with a calf injury. Trey Lance is the quarterback, which we really don't know how that's going to play out. Who knows? Maybe Trey Lance blows up and he's the starter for the rest of the year. I mean, personally, he's a more exciting quarterback than Jimmy G, but we'll see.
He personally is a much better fantasy asset than Jimmy G.
Yeah, 100%. I give the edge here to Rick. I do. It all depends on how Stafford comes out tonight against Seattle, but I think that'll be huge. It'll be a huge start.
Yeah, I'm actually giving the edge to Flipper here. I know I've been ripping his ass a little bit here in the show, but with Green Bay going up against Cincinnati, I think it's going to be a huge Rodgers, Devontae Adams get right game. And
right on, as it could be. It's in Cincinnati. It's not a far trip.
Right.
For Green Bay, but that's an early start on Sunday. And I agree. I think that could be a big game for his connect. And that's the thing. Those guys go off and have a Tyreek Mahomes type week. That's 70, could be 80 points out of 2 guys. So, all right. Well, we're opposites there. Next up, Mr. Toes and 33%. Nicky versus Norm. They're both coming off of victories last week. Norm, put up 170 plus. Nicky, all right. It is what it is. You got to win. 95 points. I give the edge to Norm. Looking at this again, Chargers are playing Cleveland, and Cleveland D is legit. Aaron Jones in Cincinnati. Okay, that's a good matchup. But you look at the rest of Nick's lineup, CEH against Buffalo. This is the week CEH comes back to earth. Again, I've knocked him before and he's gone off. Sorry, Norm. I'm not trying to dom him, but I just don't believe in CEH, man. I don't. He's trying to prove me wrong. Norm's starting a couple Giants. Kadarius Toney and Evan Ingram against Dallas. The Dallas D's got a good up front, but they're suspect. Got Lockett and Henderson going tonight, which, for the sake of the deal, and the sake of the league, I hope both blow up tonight for Norm. That'll make you feel good, John. But I think Henderson's in for a solid night, at least a touchdown against Seattle. Seattle's D's been terrible. I drafted them. It's tearing at my heart to drop them, but they're the next player on my team that I drop. They're so bad. They have -6 points after 4 games as a defense.
I'm on the other side of you here too, Busy. I'm going Nicky on this.
Okay.
Herbert, Allen, and Williams are all in line for a big bounce back game. And then I like this defensive matchup way better than what Norm's got. Now, Norm is taking the Falcons defense, which is playing the Jets, but the Steelers playing against Drew Lock is probably more my cup of tea.
Sure.
Yeah. And CEH against Buffalo. I would much rather play CEH against Buffalo than Miles Sanders against anybody.
Mm-hmm.
I do like Allen Robinson over AJ Green. So yeah, I lean Nicky this way.
All right, right on. See, I don't know. The reason why I disagree is because I think Cleveland D is legit. And I don't see either team scoring 50 points with their defense. Even though the Steelers versus Drew Lock in Denver, that's a really good matchup. Those games in London, they're weird games usually because you got the time zone change. Everyone's all fucked up.
Yeah, I could easily see the Jets putting up a bunch of points in this game. Easily.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, and it's not like you're putting up an average defense against the shitty Jets. You're putting up a shitty defense against the shitty Jets.
Yeah, and Washington just put up a ton of points and yards against this Atlanta defense last week.
Right.
So we shall see. Okay, I'm glad we're going opposites here. This is good. All right, so here we go. There's 2 games of the week, in my opinion.
Dual games of the week?
Yeah, it was.
I was straight giving it to the other game with the matchups.
Yeah, but it's you and I. It's the commissioner and the VP game. It's the podcast brothers battling it out. And anytime we play, it's our only time we play this year. Minus anything happens in the playoffs.
Yeah, bite that tongue, Busy. We're playing again.
Okay. I hope so. That would be great. That would be great for us. That we both make the playoffs and we're in a do or die, win or go home matchup. I would love that. I would love nothing more. It's like I said about the Red Sox Yankees game. And even though we're not like great rivals like that, a win is a win, but a win against you is even sweeter.
Amen. And one of us is going to walk away with that warm fuzzy this week, man.
You're right. Well, all right. Well, let's start on our game then. Obviously, I'm 3-1. You're 2-2. We're both coming off losses. You've had 2 in a row. Just looking at this again, I made that deal today with all intentions of breaking up, change face with the roster, but also break up all those guys I had going tonight. I'm a very superstitious person, especially when it comes to fantasy, and I just didn't like how I had all those guys going. And again, we're 2 of the higher projected teams this week, so I think there's going to be some points put up, given the fact, both our quarterbacks have decent matchups. I wouldn't say great, decent matchups. I think it's going to come down to our backfields. All our wide receivers are stacked. Especially when you drop a D-hop in your flex, you sneaky fucker. Green Bay D's playing Cincinnati, most likely without Joe Mixon. My Saints D, right now I'm starting them. I could swap it out. I don't know. Oakland's playing home against Chicago. I may go that route. We'll see. But right now it's the Saints in a bounce back game at Washington. I mean, how do you feel about your squad?
Oh, I love my squad. I'm kind of battling what you guys are talking about. Where like I want to make a move, but think I might be a little warm and fuzzy on too many of my guys. So the two losses right now aren't necessarily enough to spurn me into making a decision with, especially something I'm on the fence about. But I mean, I love where my team's at right now. I still maintain the only thing I really want to do is upgrade my running back too, and I'm just going to coast.
And right now you have Zach Moss. I mean, I know he's in your flex, but he's really your RB2. That's a solid RB2. And given the fact that you have the firepower with, and AB, Cup, Nuck, you can back it up with those pass catchers, and Kyler can go out for 40 plus any week. And I hate to say it, but he's due. And I hate to say it, but Russ is due as well. Both Kyler and Russ haven't blown up the last 2 weeks. I think both put up points this week.
We look fairly evenly matched. The only thing that I personally don't like, other than the fact, we've already talked about my Thursday night PTSD from a few years ago with Norm. But
right.
yeah, the only other thing that I really didn't like was where was it?
I'll tell you what I don't like, or I do like and I don't like.
Oh, no, Derrick Henry in Jacksonville. Get the fuck out of here. That could easily be the difference with Henry putting up 50,
Yeah, it could be. I mean, I hope that either Julio or AJ comes back this week, because even though Henry had a monster week last week, Jacksonville D's just going to key in on him. It definitely helps to have another receiver on the outside. And then, what's scary.
And you got to worry a little bit about that workload over the whole season.
Not at all. Nope. Doesn't worry me at all. Have you seen some of this dude's workout videos? This guy doesn't even break a sweat. He doesn't even break a sweat. He's from another planet, bro. And to his credit, he is.
So is Bo Jackson until he ripped his fucking leg out of his hip. I mean, I'm not taking anything away from him. All I know is that typically you can't put that kind of workload on a human body every year. And
you're right.
I'd be looking, it's you're nitpicking when you're talking about picking the differences between these top guys, but that's just one thing that would concern me about Derrick Henry.
Oh, absolutely, it's a concern without question. But again, this guy's a different breed. The time and effort he puts in, and the taking care of his body and his grueling workout regimen during the off season. We've seen again the videos, and he's on a different level. I don't think if it's he wears down, it's not this year. I don't see it. I see how he only gets stronger as the game goes on, and does a lot, like most of his damage in the second half. So normally, if he starts out with even 50 yards rushing in the first half, he's going to have a good game, because the second half is when the defense wears down and he gets stronger. And you also see it with the holes too, the offensive line. I mean, the second half, I watch the games naturally because I'm watching for Derrick Henry, but those holes get bigger and those lanes get bigger, and it doesn't take much for him to break one off. I'm a little nervous about Najee playing against Denver, because Denver's defense is legit, especially against the run. We all know that Pittsburgh has some issues with their offense as a whole. It looks like Claypool may not play again. So we'll see. I hope Najee gets another 14 catches. That's what I'm hoping for, because I don't see the running, the ground game being much to lean on this week. Yeah, I look at your team, dude. There's definitely some guys that scare me. You got Cooper Kupp going tonight. Is it your only guy tonight? I think so.
Only guy. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So obviously Thursday night we got some horses going, some studs going, and that's going to set the tone for the weekend. So best of luck to you and your team. I know you need a win. Every win's crucial. I feel like I need a win to bounce back. I certainly don't want to drop 2 in a row, so I know I'm going to be coaching my team, hopefully to a victory. let the best man win this week. And yeah, maybe we rekindle round 2 in the playoffs at some point.
I look forward to that, man.
Yeah, we both have the squads to do it. These things need to fall in place. Now the other matchup of the week, we'll call this the co-main event. Certainly Rich versus RJ. No Money Mahomes versus Ice Cream Man. These two have a very interesting relationship where they agree wholeheartedly on some things and they completely disagree on a lot of other things when it comes to valuing guys on their roster, strategies, how, and I love Rich to death, man. Like, he sticks to his guns. I was glad he got the win last week. I'm sorry it was against you, but it got him back fueled into fantasy because he was really down in the dumps.
Sure. Well, speaking to this game specifically, I mean, how intriguing is it that we've got Rich against RJ when we've got KC and Buffalo playing on Sunday night? Like, how much better does it get than this for this matchup?
Yeah.
Allen Mahomes, you've got Diggs versus Kelsey,
Yeah,
got
Manny
the triple
Sanders.
stack Manny versus the Cole Beasley, is he going to get the stinger on him?
Yeah.
I think this matchup looks so fun this week.
Yeah.
I don't particularly love either defensive matchup, Chicago at Las Vegas or the Cardinals at San Francisco. We still don't know what San Francisco really is.
You're right.
This is a great matchup,
Yeah.
top to bottom. And it's why I picked it over our game, even though I know where our game lies. I know what the implications and shit are. So, like,
right on. And you know what? You make a valid point. That Sunday night game certainly is going to determine what happens here. And there's no better way to do it with, first of all, 2 top quality teams, 2 offenses that are going to move the ball. And it's on primetime. The whole country is going to be watching.
And Thielen versus Jefferson.
There's
God, there's so many folds to this game. This is amazing. They both went with but they're both in the, are we starting these running backs kind of thing? Intriguing right here.
Yeah, Chris Carson is highly questionable to play tonight. That'll be interesting to see what RJ does there. I know he's got Singletary. Maybe he goes with Singletary and Ingram. But yeah, very interesting. And Calvin Ridley and Julio. Julio's questionable, but Ridley being out and then Julio being out, that would certainly, in my opinion, lean heavy towards RJ. But if both those guys are out, and then Chris Carson as well, RJ's dealing with a couple of injuries this week, limping into this game, not with a full squad. We talked about Rich not having Landry or Michael Thomas, who hasn't played at all this year. I think, Ian Montgomery. Shit. David Montgomery. There's a bunch of injuries, and these guys, this is a heavyweight battle. I mean, Rich pulls this one off, and he's right back in the thick of things, for sure. This is a monster battle. And, with RJ's team, RJ falls to 3-2 and Ricky moves up to 3-2. We have a completely different view of what's going on in the Me Too division. So this is, again, a heavyweight battle of epic proportions in a monster week 5 matchup. As you said, it all comes down to that Sunday night football game. And I say it's a pick 'em. What do you think? I don't know what to say.
Oh, that's half the reason that it's the game of the week. We can't make heads or tails of this shit until Sunday night when we're going to bed.
Yeah.
There's no telling what's going to happen.
I mean, as of last week, going into last week, if these 2 teams were playing this matchup, then I would have given RJ hands down the nod, even with the injuries. That's just how I saw things rolling. But, Rich has reinstilled a little energy into his squad. Man, this is going to be fun. I mean, can week 5 top week 4? It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough, given all the things that happen in week 4.
Well, we're set up for a fucking barn burner though, so
That is true.
let's go.
All right, brother. I just got to say, yeah, it's just this league never ceases to amaze me every week. What's going to happen this week? We don't know. It's going to be a blast. Again, good luck to you and your team.
You too
Good luck.
busy?
Thank you. Thank you. Good luck to all the teams out there. And yeah, let's do it. Over and out.
All right, homie.
Later, bro.